In this video, I'll be showing you how you can set up payment processing with Stripe in n8n. So make sure to watch this video till the end, and also the template that I'll be using in this video will be available for you to download. So make sure to download and use it in your workflows as well. Perfect. So let's start by taking a look at high level overview of the entire flow, right? So on the left side, we have n8n. On the right side, we have Stripe. So these are the two steps that takes place in this payment flow. The first one is we generate a payment link, right? We're gonna make a request to Stripe's API to give us a payment link, which will then pass to our user so that they can fill in the credit card information or make the payment. Once the payment is done, we're gonna be notified by Stripe through webhook, right? So we're gonna be setting up a webhook and listening for events from Stripe, and once the payment goes through or it fails, no matter what happens, Stripe will let us know. So we're going to be listening for that events. Once we receive those events, we're not going to directly process it, but we first verify whether it's actually coming from Stripe or not. And once we make that verification and it successfully goes through the verification process, then we're going to take further actions, right? So this is something that's being overlooked by many people. Webhook needs to be verified and made sure that it's coming from the right source, right? So we're going to be talking about that as well. So this is how this entire flow works. So now let's actually take a look at our workflow, right? So like I said, there are two different steps. So the first one is the payment link generation. So this is where we generate the payment link. In the second step, we'll be setting up our webhook, which will be listening to any events from Stripe, right? So before I get into each one of these, first actually let's set up the essential details that we need inside our nodes, right? So this HTTP request node in our first step for payment link generation, it needs two variables, which is the product price ID. So price ID is basically the ID of a product which we're selling, right? And Stripe secret key is basically the API key. And in the second flow, this flow expects a webhook secret key, right? Which we need to plug inside our crypto node so that we can perform the verification process. So let's actually set up these three variables first, and then we'll continue further. First thing we have to do is to get a Stripe account. So I'm just running it on test mode right now. So once you have the Stripe account, all I have to do is just to first create a simple product, right? So I have a couple of products here, but I'm just going to create one for this video. Let's say video demo. Say video demo description, and you can choose a payment type. So for now I'm just going to go with one off and set a price of $10. Click on add product. So once you add that product, just click inside default variant which is created for this product. So what we're going to do is just copy this price ID. This is what we want, and this is what our users will be purchasing basically, and they'll be paying for. If I just open this up, what I have to do is just to replace this price with the price ID with the one which I just copied. So I have some previous values as I was testing it before. So just replace this with your product's price ID, and then over here in quantity is set to 1, and all the other fields are defined. So let me just show you the endpoint. I forgot to show you this. So this is the endpoint that we're using. If you just go to the documentation page, you can see this endpoint called as v1 payments underscore links. So this is the endpoint that we'll be using to generate our dynamic payment link, right? So once you make a request to this by passing the required information, it's going to give us the link right here. If you just scroll down to the bottom, you can see the URL. So this is the payment link actually, so that we need. So if I just go back to the node again and show you what are the details that we are passing here. So in the headers, we're passing the secret key, which I'll cover next. In the body, we've already seen the price ID, the product, the product price ID, and also the quantity rate. Currently it's set to 1. After this, we have another option called as after completion type is set to hosted confirmation. So it shows a small little confirmation page once the payment is successfully done right on their payment page. That's what it is. So we have covered the first necessary variable, which is the price ID, and then let's actually set up our secret key. Let's see where we can get that, right? So we're done with the product price ID. We've added that. Now let's get the secret ID. So if you just go to the dashboard again, and over here on the left, bottom left, you have this developers section. If you just click on that and go to API keys, and here you have two different keys. So the first one is publishable key. This is not what we're looking for. We're looking for this secret key. Just click on this to copy, get back to our workflow, and just replace the existing one with yours, right? Make sure you have this bearer word added here, and there's a space between the key and the bearer word. Don't mess this up. This is really important. So once this is done, that's it. That's all this node needs. These two variables, the product price ID and the secret key, right? We just let me just save this, and if I just try to run this, it should work actually. If I just click on test step, see, it made a request to that endpoint and actually gave us a link that we can actually visit and try. If I just open this up, you can see I have this payment link here, which I can just fill out with the card information and then do the payment, right? So this is just the first step. We are not completely done yet. We have to complete the second part as well, which is to configure the webhook part as well. So let me just close this for now. I'll get back to this. Now let's actually configure our webhook so that we can receive the events and complete the flow, right? So this is the second flow, and over here this needs a Stripe webhook secret key, right? So it's required by this crypto node. So just open, sorry, if I just open this crypto node, so this is the secret key that we want to add inside this node. Right? I'll show you where you can get that. If you go back to your Stripe dashboard and go to webhooks, so first you have to set up your webhook, right? And after that, you're gonna get a secret key for that webhook. So let me just create an event destination. Get back here. Let me copy this test URL for now. Copy, paste it here, and add a description. Let's say test webhook. Next, listen to events on your account. This is fine, and this version is also fine. And select events to listen to. So this is really important. And there are so many events that you can listen to. The one which we are most interested in is this checkout session completed. This one. So this is an event that gets triggered by Stripe once the entire session, like checkout session, completes. Right, the payment is successfully done, and that's when this event gets triggered. And just click on Add Events. This is the only event that we'll be listening to, and that's all we need. And depending on different kinds of payments, we might need to change this value. For example, we have set the payment type to one-off, so this is enough. For example, if you're setting it for recurring, then we have different event types, right? Like subscription, a paid subscription, I think something like that. We have different events to listen to in that case. So for this purpose, it's this is fine. Make sure to check the documentation depending on the type of payment we have set up, right? And once this is done, we have successfully added our webhook. Now let me just get the signing secret. So this is what is called as webhook secret, right? So let me just copy this. This is important. Get back to our workflow, and over here let me just replace this with the one which I just copied. So make sure these values that we require here, these product price ID, the Stripe secret key, and also the webhook secret key, make sure to keep this very private and not leak it outside, because these are very sensitive data, right? Perfect. So we have added these three values that's required in order for us to complete this workflow. Now let me just save this and give it a try, right? Let me just clear everything. Now what I'll do is I'll generate a payment link. Let me just click on test step. Cool. Okay, let me copy the URL. But before that, since we're using the test URL, we need to make sure to listen it manually. In the next step, I'll just use the production URL so that I don't have to do this again and again. So let me just fill in these values. So this is a dummy card that I'm using for test purposes. 1225 for CVV, it's 123. I'm gonna use my name. When I click on pay, See what happens. So the payment goes through, and then we should have got an event from Stripe, right? We have received it over here, as you can see. If I just scroll down a bit, just to make sure it's the right event type. So yeah, as you can see, it's the one which we're interested in, which is checkout session completed. So this means that the payment has gone through successfully. Perfect. So this completes the flow actually. So we can, in the first step, we generate the link, and then the second one we listen to the events, and then when we receive it, we can conclude the flow, right? But that's not yet. We also need to make sure to verify that the request is actually coming from Stripe and it's not being tampered with, right? Like the data that's inside the request body, right? Like this data, not some random person can make a request to this webhook and pretend that the payment has been done, right? So we don't want that to happen. So that's why we need to verify the source of the request and also the content inside it, like the integrity of the request. So that's why we have a couple of nodes in between to make sure to validate those before we actually conclude this process, right? So the first one is actually verifying the signature, right? So what we call as HMAC signature verification. We can do this by taking a look inside this Stripe signature. So this is a key that Stripe gives us, right, along with the request, so that we can verify this entire request. So let me just explain what this Stripe signature is. But before that, let me also talk about the second method, which is our timestamp verification, right? It's over here. So this is to make sure that we are setting a strict expiry date for this request. For example, if someone gets the same request, like for example, if I just copy this and pass it over to someone, and if they make the same request again to this webhook, we should not process that because we have already processed the same kind of request earlier, right? It's a duplicate request. That's not something that we want to do, right? We need to set a restriction or an expiry date for each request, and the same request comes again to the webhook. We should not process it. We should consider that as a duplicate and just reject it, right? This is something that we have added in the as a second step of validation. This is also known as, popularly known as, replay attack. Like it's called as replay attack, so that the same request is copied and sent over to the webhook again, just to pretend that it's a legitimate purchase, and get access to your whatever you're offering, right? So this is not something that we want. We want to make sure that the request is actually coming from the right source, and also we're checking for the validity of that request. So those are the two things that we're doing. Now let me actually show you those two methods in detail. First, let me just go to this code node, right? So coming to this Stripe signature, so this is where it actually Stripe actually gives us an important hash here. So it has three different parts: the T, V1, and there's something called as V0. So these are the three variables that we have. T is basically the timestamp at which this request was originated, right? Or originated or signed, you can say. V1 is basically the hash, right? This object, this key here, is basically a hash of this entire body, the body object that you're seeing here. This entire body object's hash is basically this value. So we get this value by actually hashing the entire body using our webhook secret, right? So the webhook secret that we have over here. So that's what we'll be doing on our side as well to verify this request. So when we pass this body and also our webhook secret through a function called as hmac 256, so it's an encryption algorithm. When we pass these two together, we get this hash, and we need to make sure the hash that we get matches this that we receive in the headers. So that's how we verify this. So before we do that, it's kind of hard to parse all these values because it's a single string and we have multiple values here, right? So it's better if we just put everything into an object, right? So that's why we have this code node in between. So this basically takes a look at the Stripe signature, this string, and then just converts that into a parsable or a readable object. If I just click on test step, you can see I got an object here, clearly segregated by the keys T v1 v0, and v0 is something old that you can just ignore. We are just interested in the timestamp and the v1 value, right? Perfect. We got the object now. Now let's actually verify this hash. So v1 is what we are interested in. So like I said earlier, what we're going to do is we'll use this crypto node when we have this action called as hmax. And what we'll do is we need to pass the object that we got here in the body of this request along with this timestamp, right? The t value. If we just pass both of these in this format, and then along with that we pass the our webhook secret, right? So these two variables are expected by this function. So when we pass these two together, it actually gives us a hash value back. So it's going to hash the value using this webhook secret, and it's going to give us. So if I just run this again, so you can see it gives us a string called as computer signature, and this is the hash that we got back. And all we have to do is just to make sure that the v1 value that we got from our headers, from stripe headers, matches our computed signature, right? So this way we're going to make sure that the data is not tampered with, and it's actually coming from stripe, and it has used the same key for hashing the value, right? So this is how we validate the authenticity and also the integrity of the data. So that's what we'll do in this process, right? So we just see the v1 exactly matches the computed signature. So this way we have successfully validated that the data is valid and also coming from the right source. Perfect. So that's what we have done here. So this is our first step, and we have successfully verified that, which is validating our signature. And then the second one is this one, timestamp validation. So what we'll do is over here we're gonna convert our current time, and then the time that we got in the headers, right? The t1, yeah, it's here. So this value is in seconds, and the if you use dollar now in n8n, it's an inbuilt function. It gives us in milliseconds, so you just have to convert that to seconds by dividing it by 1000, so to get the value in seconds. So we're going to make sure that the difference between the current time and also the time at which the request was originated, right, is less than 60 seconds in our case. So this is what it's defined here. So let's say if a request is sent at exact 12 and we received it after 12:01, right? 60 seconds meaning 1 minute. If we receive it after 12:01, then we're gonna just reject this request. So we're gonna make sure that the difference between the time at which it was signed and also the current time is always less than 60 seconds. So this is how we do the second type of validation here. So, and if I just run this, it should actually fail, as you can see. That's because it's been more than 60 seconds, right, since we got this request, and I've been explaining through each nodes here. So in real case, what happens is it just goes through quickly, and we're gonna make sure it's under 60 seconds. But since we have elapsed the time, now it's just failing this and going to this false path, which just raises an error, right? But if it's less than 60 seconds, we're gonna end up in this true path. So that's how we're gonna uh, get the request, listen to the event from Stripe, and then validate the request using two different validation methods. And then we're gonna consider that the request is totally legitimate. That's it. I think if I just clear this, now run the entire flow together at once and show you everything in a single shot. What I'll do is I'll just use the production URL this time so that I don't have to listen to it again. Make sure this is set to active. Now go back to my dashboard again. Let me update this to use the production URL. Update endpoint. Right. Close this one. Go back to my dashboard again. Now if I just copy this, I'm sorry, if I just run this node again, I should get a payment link. If I just visit this link again, now let me just fill out these details. 242 1225 123 Oh, okay, once I click on pay, yes, the payment gets through. Now let me just check my executions and see I've received. Yep, this is the latest one. Yep, as you can see, it's actually gone through, and we are actually at the final stage, right? We are at the true branch. So we have successfully received the event from Stripe about successful payment, and in the code node we are extracting the details, and over here in this block, in the crypto block, we are uh, generating the hash and comparing it from the one which we received in the request, and at the end we are also comparing it with the timestamp, right? We're doing this timestamp verification as well, and even that gets through. And after that, we have our true node. It didn't take this path, so which means that it was successful. We are in the true branch. Now from here we can just continue and basically provide access to all those services or products which the user paid for. Now you're free, right? So this is how I can set up Stripe, right, for payment processing in your n8n with full complete verification by following the best practices, right? We have set up webhook. We're listening to the webhook events and also make sure to validate and verify all the data that's coming in the request, and just ignoring the ones which are invalid and not legitimate. So how can you set it up yourself? So this is the next section. So like I said, this will be available for you to download. Just download this, and again you just have to follow the same step that I just showed you before. All you have to do is just to create a Stripe account first and get these values, right? Fill in these variables: your product price ID, the ID of the product that you want to basically sell, and then the Stripe secret key. You can get it from the developer section here. From here, API key is this one, secret key. And then over here inside this webhook section, you need a webhook secret key, right? For this you just first need to set up your webhook, and once you set up your webhook, you'll get the signing secret here. So this is what you want, and you just need to paste that inside the crypto node. And for these two I have shown you earlier, the secret key goes over here. Just replace this with this, your current value, and then the price ID will be replaced by your price ID. That's it. Those three variables just plug in and you're ready to use, right? And you can just extend it from here to continue your workflow. That's it. That's the whole entire setup process. Now we are at the last section, which is this workflow isn't limited to Stripe. It can be extended to support any payment processor. So this workflow can be used as a starting point or a base template to connect with any payment processor, not just Stripe, because all of them follow very similar structure, right? So in order for you to generate a payment link, you would have to hit their endpoint, that gets you the payment link by also passing different kinds of variables that they expect. So if you're not using Stripe, then the values would differ. And then most of the payment processing services, they get back to us or just notify about the event through webhooks. So this step remains the same, and then the verification also remains the same, but the way we generate the hash might differ depending on different kinds of services or the processor that you're using. You just need to make sure to check their documentation to see how to uh, verify the signature, right? And after that, the timestamp validation remains the same almost. So almost all 95%, I would say, would remain the same. Little bit difference you might find, but you can just figure that out and fix it by just going through their documentation, right? And no matter which payment processor you use, webhook verification is very essential and should never be overlooked. Like I said, this is something that most people overlook or just neglect, right? What they do is just set up the webhook and start consuming right away. So that's not what we want to do. We just want to follow the best practices, right? And then, like I said so many times, download this resource, this template. You'll find that in the description section, and then just tweak it as per your requirement. And I'll be building more practical applications and workflows in the coming days to show how to make the most of the fans stack. So this is something that I came up recently. So this is actually like a foundation video that I'm making to show how to use or how to work with payment processors in n8n. So I'll be adding or making more videos on fan stack. This is what I just termed it this morning. So this fan stack stands for form zero. Form zero is a tool that I built, which lets you create forms. Not just forms, you can just build an entire front end for your n8n workflows and start monetizing it. And I'll talk about that in further videos. So let me just tell you this. The fan stack, F stands for form zero, A stands for Airtable. Airtable can be used as a database, right, to store all your information. N stands for n8n, the backend, the soul of your the application. And then S stands for Stripe. Stripe for payment processing. Of course, you want money. So these are the four different technologies or softwares or whatever you want to call it that you can use to build a complete app that makes you money, right? So this is what I've termed as fan stack. So F form zero can be used for building front end, Airtable for database, n8n for backend, Stripe for payment processing. So all in all, this is how it looks like, and I'll be covering more and more videos on how to do this, and that'll be even more interesting. That's it. And if you have any more questions, feel free to let me know in the comments, or you can just email me. And also let me know what you would like to see next, and I'll try to cover that in my further videos. Right. That's it. Thank you so much. I think this was a very lengthy video, but I had to explain some important things. Right. Hopefully you learned something new. I'll see you again in another video. Until then, take care. Good day.